Alva, in your small village, did they increase the amount of services that you had to accommodate the extra population?
They've definitely accommodated them, but in very negative terms for the locals that were here. I'll give you an example personally that happened to me back in 2022 when the Ukrainians were here the first year. I had a baby in 21. I was ready to go back to work, and I called my local creche, and they told me no, the Ukrainian kids are at the top of the list. There's a waiting list, about a year, 18 months waiting list, but the Ukrainians are at the top of the list. So you're going to go to the bottom. Wow. And I thought, well, I couldn't go back to work. Actually, it turns out I just had to quit my job. I couldn't go back to work because there was no place there. And I was asking these questions around the village, and I was trying to find out where the Ukrainians were getting work, why they needed the childcare more than I did. And what I was told was that the creche had this thing where they needed to include the Ukrainians, something to do with social inclusion, that their kids needed to be in a creche. For social inclusion,
even though the parents weren't actually working,
they weren't working. They were just dropping them and going back to the hotel for the day. Now, I
do understand the logic behind that to some degree.
I do,
particularly if they're going to be here long term for their kids, to learn English and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But I remember at the time having an argument with a manager. I was like, I don't understand this. I need to go back to work, and I really had to at that time. I had to go back to work. And and she just said to me, listen, if I just handed you a place, it wouldn't be fair on the parents of the community. And I was just saying, well, I am a parent of the community and this isn't fair. So I then had to leave my job. And was I entitled to anything? No, I wasn't. So it's the unfairness like that. So they got the extra resources, but I didn't. I suffered.
And you've been paying tax here all your life? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since you started work, obviously. Yeah, look,
Niall,
yeah, go ahead, Alva.
Can I just? Isn't it it's very like a modern day plantation of Ulster. If you think about it, if you go back in time, what was happening where the Irish people were just being wiped out. They were the minority.
Well, the CSO did bring out statistics there 2 weeks ago for the population in 2057. And they said, based on the current scenario, our population will be nearly, I think it was 8 million, don't quote me on the exact figures, 8 million. And the vast majority of the new population, obviously because we're only having 1.5 children now, the vast majority will be non-Irish. So it does look like if you carry that scenario on for, say, another 20 or 30 years, we will be, the Irish indigenous, if you want to call them that, for a better word, will be a minority in their own country.
Isn't that just wild?
Well, see, here's the problem. Going forward, we have to do one of two things. We either import people or we encourage Irish people to have more children. Because we have a big problem in the fact that we're not replacing our own population, similar to many other countries in Europe, by the way. We need 2.3 children to replace the population.
But we're
only having a 1.5. Now, the answer to that, Alva, if I was in government, is to give you money for childcare costs. The answer the answer to that is to support you, and support you and your partner to get an affordable house, not a 2-bedroom apartment. So you'll have a back garden, and you can have 3 kids and 3 bedrooms. So that's the answer. But the government won't do that.
I also remember you were saying a few years ago, I know you've spoken about this before, about the wage for the stay-at-home mother should also be a topic that's brought up to make a reality for Irish women or, any nationality women to stay at home. And, if they couldn't get like in a small town like ours, that there isn't a childcare space there, that the woman isn't at home suffering without her own pay, I suppose, and relying on one income in the family. We would have more children if we could.
Yeah, Bertie Ahern was the one who suggested a payment for stay-at-home mothers going back in 2006, I think it was. Yeah. And I completely agree with it. You don't have to pay them $2,000 a week or something like that. but a payment. I mean, look, they're increasing social welfare now, up to 450, depending on what your job was previously, right? So, I mean, if, for example, a stay-at-home mum wants to stay home, you could put an age limit on it, say, for the first 7 years of a child's life, which are the formative years of a child's life. I believe absolutely there should be an allowance made, and there should be a payment made.
But in my case, I didn't want to stay home. But I couldn't. I felt like I was being forced to stay at home because I had no childcare. Yeah. Now, I know that's different. Sometimes I do want to stay home and sometimes I don't. But in that specific time, I wanted to be at work. I couldn't hack being at home anymore. And I felt like I had absolutely no choice. Now, I had tried at the time to contact local TDs, and I don't know, I think I got the idea that they were going to help me, but nobody did help me. Now, obviously, we're in better times now, but when I think about all of the help that other nationalities get, I just feel like, what is the point of fighting? Like, what is my fight worth? Or what is my family working so hard for when we get nothing in return? It's just so unfair.
Okay, well, hang on.